To set up Book a Spot, go to the Setup, Book a Spot. Once we're in the Bookable Assets page, you will see an option on the very top to add a new category. Or if you already have existing categories, you can also just click on the category itself to rename it and edit if required. And similar to the appointment categories, we have little arrows on the right-hand side to either move up or move down the asset category to further filter it based on the business's needs. From here, I'm going to add a brand new category, and I'm going to name it Spin Bikes. Once we add the category, underneath the category, you will now see an option to add the assets. I'm going to go add an asset. And from here, I'm going to name the asset. I'm just going to name it Spin Bike. And then under here, again, if it is a multi-location business that you're working out of, you will need to choose which location this asset belongs in. For now, I'm going to choose it as location A. If I scroll down, we do have the calendar picker, just like all our other services. We can choose a color for it. I'm just going to make maybe a green over here. Scrolling down, you can indicate the quantity of it. So let's just say maybe I have a maximum of 10 spin bikes that can fit into my studio when a spin class runs. I can set it as 10 so that it's limited. Underneath, if we want to go ahead and take notes, we can set it up as none or quick. Scrolling further down, we do have the visit session value, just like the rest of our services. Quick buy settings, and then on the very bottom we have the asset booking rule. So we can either set this up as asset can only be booked with other services, meaning that it cannot be booked on its own, only if it's a part of a service. The other option on the left hand side is asset can be booked separately from services, meaning that maybe we can rent out these bikes outside of classes, events, or appointments. So we have two options here. If we are going to go ahead and go asset can be booked separately from services, it doesn't mean that it can only be booked separately. We can also still attach it to services if needed. Okay. So once we set this up, if I scroll down, there's going to be additional options for me to set up the price for renting the spin bikes individually. So here I can either set it up as a fixed amount or a free amount. So let's say, for example, it does require them to maybe spend $5 to rent out a spin bike for an hour. So I can go ahead and set it up as fixed. I can set up the price as, let's say, $5, and then the duration. You can definitely add multiple durations and prices. For example, if they maybe want to rent it for an hour and a half, maybe that'll be $10. Okay, so we can add as many as we want. Maybe they want to rent it for 2 hours. Maybe that'll be $15. Okay, so we can go ahead and set these different things up. Beneath that, we have the toggle for clients can book the assets online or not. If we leave this off as it is right now, that means only staff will be able to book the clients to rent these assets if they wanted to. If we want to allow them to maybe book it on the client web app or on the paid version of the Achieve app, we can turn this on. Once we enable this, clients can book the assets, then we can now go ahead and set it up under a Book Now tab, just like we did for the other services. So maybe in this case, I don't want it to be called assets. Maybe I want it to be named one called Spin Bike Rental, so that they can easily find and understand what it is if they're booking this online. I can add this as a new Book Now tab for the assets, so they can easily filter this. Scrolling down, we have the age restriction if there's any for renting out these bikes, requiring staff approval, similar to that of our appointments, right? Can they just book it online, or does it have to go through a staff for them to approve it first? We have different purchase rules, just like we've seen with our other services, custom business policies, taxes, again, if there are any, we can set that up, apply the HST, booking interval, so similar to appointment booking, right? What's the scheduling interval the clients will be able to book at, right? If it's 30-minute increments, then they'll be able to start at times like 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30, so on and so forth. Notifications, and then last but not least, our revenue category. Again, very similar to our other services. So once this is done, we can go ahead and click on Save. And once that's saved, we do want to go back in because we are still missing a step. So once I've set that up, let's go back into Spin Bike and edit. And if I scroll down now, there will be an additional setup for me to set up the available times of these assets. So similar to appointments where appointments have to be run by a staff member, assets do not have to be run by staff. So in this case, we do have to tell the system, well, in this case, when are these assets available to be rented outside of classes? So that's why we do have to set up available and unavailable time. So let's just say, hey, you know what, spin bikes outside of the classes, as long as the studio is open, we can rent out these bikes. People just come in to use them in our studio. We can maybe just add an available time. Let's say we're open 7 days of the week, and let's say the studio opens from 8 a.m. all the way to 9 p.m. So what's going to happen is once we add this in, clients and staff will be able to book into these assets. So let's say somebody just wants to come in and use bike number one, they can go ahead and book it as long as there's no other services that are happening that requires that asset. And once that's done, we can save it again. And that's it. We've created 10 spin bikes for location A that can be used for services and also can be rented on its own. If we need to associate these spin bikes, let's say to a spin class, we can then go into our classes setup or events or appointments, whatever it may be used for. In this case, I have a spin class that's created and it will require those spin bikes. I can go back into my spin class, scroll all the way down to where the assets are. I can say service requires an asset. In this case, it's for the studio A, but it's for the spin bikes, so I can set that up. And in this case, because each bike is for individual clients coming in for the class, it's not one bike for the entire class, we want to make sure that this asset is reserved individually per client in this specific case. Down here, we do have an option to allow clients to choose which asset they want, right? Maybe let's say out of the 10 bikes, they like a bike at a specific area in the studio, then maybe we can allow the clients to select which asset they want to specifically, or I can say no, whichever bike's available, go ahead and automatically assign it. So you have two options here. And again, once that's done, we can save the class setting. And when we schedule this class now, we'll have an option to actually assign the spin bikes to it.